G'day everyone, and welcome to the first of the jhuxley.com video cooking classes. Today I'm going to show you the dish that I'm probably most asked for since leaving MasterChef, and that's my pork belly. Today I'm going to show you the basic steps to make the perfect crackled roast pork belly, and it'll be perfect every single time if you follow these few easy steps. So first we start with good quality pork. I mean that's important. It's got a nice amount of meat to fat ratio there. It's got nice clean skin. Now the preparation of this skin for the crackling is the most important thing. I put the pork into the fridge overnight uncovered, so that gets the skin really tacky and dry. That dehydrates it a little bit, but what you're trying to do is get the crackling to crackle. So if there's any moisture there, that will not work. So that's our first step. Second step, once we get it out, make sure it gets to room temperature. We don't want to put a cold piece of pork into the oven because the internal temperature doesn't get there at the same time as the crackling. Second step, once we've done that, it's at room temperature now, we get a little bit of white wine vinegar. Now what the white wine vinegar does is just gets rid of that last remnants of moisture. So just wipe the skin over with that. Won't leave any flavour there, it really is just to absorb the moisture. So the next step to get this crackling right is to score the skin. Now there's a few ways you can do this. You can do it in a crisscross pattern. You can just prick the skin with the point of a knife. The way I like to do it, which also helps with the presentation and the serving of the pork, is just really thin lines. So to get that spot on, you can use a few different tools. You can use a Stanley knife, will do the job, any sort of blade. I use my little global paring knife. It's got a little turn point, so that makes things a little bit easier. And then I use a pastry scraper to get this accurate. So I just get it on there, push down. So now with the skin scored, the next step is to rub some salt and oil into it. Now what that does is it helps the skin crackle. You don't want a thick layer of oil, you just want a nice thin layer with plenty of salt. So just use good olive oil, a little tiny bit like that. Just massage that into the skin. Then we put the salt. Now, good quality salt's important. I use the Himalayan pink salt. I find it's got a better flavour, and it's also quite flaky and light, so you can get a good coverage on the pork without having big chunks. So we've got quite a bit on there. A lot of this will actually brush off after the crackling's crackled, so don't panic that you're eating that much salt. So just rub that in. Rub it in like that. Now our pork's ready for the oven. Now this step's very important. The difference between your crackling being beautifully crisp and crunchy and a bit sort of doughy depends on the oven temperature. Now we need to put it into a roasting pan of some description. Not too high-sided. I like the skin to be able to get access to the heat quite well. And if you haven't got something that's non-stick, I would lay, say, maybe some strips of carrot or some potato underneath the pork just to stop it sticking to the pan. This has got a Teflon coating, so it's not going to stick to this one. Now, you cannot have the oven too hot for this. Basically, the hottest that a domestic oven will get to is perfect. Turn the oven on, preheat it 15 to 20 minutes at 250 to 300, whatever your oven goes to. So basically as hot as you can get it. Now the reason for that is we want to hit this pork with heat straight away, get that skin to really pop and crackle, and then we turn it down from there. So I'll go and put this in the oven and I'll come back for the next step. The next step is to make the apple poaching liquid. Now this is a pretty basic liquid that I use to get the meat succulent, and also as the fat dissolves from the pork belly, it goes into this sauce as well, and it just makes it delicious. So start with some red onion, A little bit of garlic, good Australian garlic. Some whole peppercorns. Okay, now any apple juice will do the job. For the actual quantities of these ingredients, you can get the recipe from my website. Today I'm just showing you the technique. So with that now, we put that on the stove. Now we want to bring this to the boil, and that's it. That just infuses that onion and pepper flavour through the apple juice. Then we'll strain it off. So I'll just go and put this on the stove now. Okay, so our crackling is spot on. It's crackled beautifully. The meat is cooked through. You could actually eat this now quite happily. You'd put this with some roast veggies and a bit of gravy, and you've got a great little pork roast that takes next to no time. But what we're going to do today is we're going to give it a bit more love. So you can see there, through there is a band of fat. And basically that band of fat is what we want to dissolve into this applesauce, and that will bring out the flavour of the meat, and it'll also give us a beautiful gravy base. So we've got that apple juice that's been brought up to the boil with the onion, garlic and pepper. As I said before, the biggest enemy of the crackling is moisture. Now you have to let this pan cool down a little bit. If you put this into the pan when it's piping hot, what we're going to create is a lot of steam. Steam sends the crackling soft, so we don't want to do that. So that's cooled down to the point where I can touch it. Now take the sauce which is warm. That's the other thing. If this isn't warm, again, put cold liquid into a hot pan and it's going to make steam. So that's where we want the level of liquid to come from. I've now got 2 Granny Smith apples that have been peeled and cored, just cut into quarters. We're going to put those into there as well. So this will go back into the oven for 3 to 4 hours. It's more than done at sort of 3 hours, but 4 hours will just give it that extra little bit of tenderness. Now we put this back in the oven at about 140 degrees. So we're basically just keeping that liquid just bubbling away. The meat's cooked, there's no doubt about that. So we're just dissolving the fat in the pork belly and letting the meat absorb some of that beautiful apple juice. That'll also soften our apples up to the point where we can make a beautiful apple sauce to go with it. So there's our pork out of the oven. It's had just over 3 hours with the apples. While that pork just rests in that liquid for a minute, I'm just going to get the apple sauce going. So basically we need some sort of blender. I use this little Sunbeam stick blender for everything. It's a great tool. So we need a slotted spoon. And we just lift those apples out. I want to get rid of most of that apple juice because we don't want the apple sauce too runny. We actually want to have a little bit of body to it. So those apples are beautifully stewed in the liquid. They've got a bit of the pork flavour, they've got the pepper, the garlic and the onion through them, so it's quite a savoury apple sauce. Now to that we add 50 grams of cold butter. Now it's crucial that this is cold because we want that sauce to emulsify together. We don't want apple and butter. So we put that in. We might actually cut that in half. So 50 grams of butter into there. There's our applesauce. We now put our knife into about where you'd portion it, say there. And we go through there, saves us breaking too much of the crackling. Okay, lay that down. There, beautiful portions of pork belly. Now to plate it up. Obviously I'd normally have a few sides with this, and in the next video we'll show you a couple of beautiful sides that go together with this. But today it's just the belly and the sauce. Just take some of the apple sauce. Just finish it off with a little bit of pink salt. There we have it. Roast pork belly poached in apple with applesauce.